plan was only hire nice people, only hire people with a great work ethic, only hire the kind of people that you would like to spend a tough 12-hour day working with shoulder to shoulder. And that was my formula for success, and it worked.
Of course.
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
How would you like to make your first million? Today we have Larry joining us, which is the founder of Gentle Giant, and he is an entrepreneur that have scaled his company to several states in United States. And the first question, we would like to know, what are the 5 steps you recommend entrepreneurs in order to make the first million?
Okay. Well, for me, it was identifying a crying need. And in my case, I became aware, and this was back in the 1980s, that a lot of businesses simply weren't putting out a quality product. So obviously there was a crying need for that. And one of the things I did when I decided that I would start my own company was I went around and met with the owners of other small companies. And because I had seen their companies in action, and most of them were really bad, I also spoke to a couple that were pretty good. And so when I would knock on the door and say, "My name is Larry, I'm thinking of starting a moving company. Do you mind if I pick your brain?" So I was going to be their competition. So I didn't know if they would tell me to get lost. But in every single case, they were gracious and welcoming. And it was the same thing everywhere. Come in and have a cup of coffee, and they'd sit down and chat, and they were very nice people. And when I asked them, and this would be definitely consistent in our industry, when I asked them what was their biggest challenge, it was finding good help. They called it help. In other words, finding the people that would execute the service. That was their biggest challenge. And so that really underlined for me why they weren't successful, because I'd seen their crews in action, and there were people that, if it were my business, I would have known exactly what to do. Shut my doors and start a different business, because it was beyond repair. Because when you hire those kind of people, those kind of people that aren't the kind that should be there, then you can't really find anyone else, because every good person you're going to hire is going to leave. They're going to say, "I don't need to work with these jerks." So my business plan was only hire nice people, only hire people with a great work ethic, only hire the kind of people that you would like to spend a tough 12-hour day working with shoulder to shoulder. And that was my formula for success, and it worked.
Of course. Look, Larry, out of the 500 millionaires that we interview in this podcast, when I ask the people if they want to start all over again, what they would do different, the answer is always culture and the people. They're telling me, "Harry, if I knew that I need to start all over again, I will pay more attention to culture, and I will pay more attention to the people from the very beginning," because people don't know that it's going to be like 100 times harder. People think that starting the business is only going to be harder, but people thinking that it's 100 meters, that is not a marathon. So my question to you, Larry, is how you knew from the very beginning that culture is what is going to make a big difference? Because in my business, for example, I didn't knew from the beginning. I got lucky. That I hired people better than me to do the job in my first property business in London.
Right.
I go lucky. I didn't know. You plan for it. It's completely different. So,
Right.
and because I go lucky, my first 5 team members, 6, they were all girls and they were amazing. Okay. But in that journey, I remember I had 2 to 3 people. There were people also that stole money from me. In a startup, very small, I went out of the country and it was a room. I used to rent in the properties in London and I was renting the rooms in the individual. And then I went abroad and one of my team members go rent the same room. He advertised it cheaper, rent the same room 9 times, collect all the money, all the 1 month deposit, 1 more rent, and then he disappeared. And when I came back, I have a queue of 9 people that I had to give them accommodation because it's my company. Okay. And also I need to give them the deposit back. So
Right.
he took maybe, I think it was like £4,000, but to me, it was like £12,000. I had to give accommodation to these people. I need to give them back the deposit, and I had to.
Right.
So it was a huge, for an startup. I almost got out of business, Larry,
Right.
because of this. Almost, I was that
Yeah.
only for one person. So how you knew from the beginning? How you prepared for it? Because one thing is to read the book. You knew from the beginning. If I want to make this business work, people is gonna be the key. So tell us a little bit how you knew.
Well,
Because it's difficult to find the right people also, Larry. Sometimes you need to pay them more money.
well,
And we don't
actually,
have money at the beginning.
okay. Well, I'll tell you what, the first person you hire is the most important one. They have to set the standard for everything that comes after them. And when I was home in Ireland at the time and celebrating my grandfather's 100th birthday, and I told him I was going to start a moving company. And that's what he told me. The first person is the most important one because he said, now this is from the west of Ireland, he said, if you piss in your soup, you'll not get it out. Okay? And so
Wow.
you see
What a
people with
great advice. Great
right,
advice.
because once you let wrong people in, the culture goes upside down
You
and
cannot fix it.
you cannot fix it. That's absolutely right. You can't fix it. So you have to be, especially in the beginning, extremely careful with who you hire and confident in their character. Because as time goes on, then you have a unit of people that'll protect the culture for you. Because
Absolutely.
if you happen to make a mistake, you may not see it. Maybe they conned you in an interview or something. But once they're with the other people, they will know immediately if the person can't be trusted. And you have to have a culture where they're willing to call other people out and where somebody can speak up and say, I don't think this person belongs here, and feel comfortable doing it. Now, to be honest, I wasn't thinking about culture in the beginning. I was just thinking of making a decent living and surviving. And when we started to do really well and we got to about a $3 million company, I had a lot of people that had stayed a lot longer than they had expected to. I said, well, you hire somebody that may be going to work for the summer or work for a year before they go to grad school or something. And when I would ask them why they stuck around, they would always say it's the culture. But I hadn't
100%.
I hadn't actually talked about culture. But you know what? If you hire the right people, as you were saying, you had some great people in the beginning. If you hire the right people, they create the culture. But then once we decided to grow the business, I wanted to be able to describe the culture for other people coming in the door. And so I asked the people that were with me at the time, about 50 of them, I said, when you go home this weekend, write down the 5 values that you think, the core values that describe our culture. Now, I honestly said this because I read it in a book, but, they came in on the Monday with their lists. And out of that list, we comprised it down to the 5 values that define us. And for instance, nearly everybody had on their list respect. Everyone was in with respect. With honesty, they called it integrity or they called it transparency or whatever, but they were talking about honesty. And enthusiasm is a core value for us. And they had different words for that, like energy and drive and stuff like that. We called it enthusiasm. But all the other values, we compressed them into 2 values that brought all those together. One was going above and beyond. So nobody actually wrote those words, but it described what people were saying, the willingness to go the extra mile for their customer, for their teammates, whatever. And the last one was teamwork. And those values spell out the word heart. And so we call it the giant heart. And we go with that. And that's the title of my book. We call it Heavy Lifting, Building a Business with a Giant Heart. And that's exactly what we did. Because the thing about culture is you don't just create a culture, you have to maintain it over time. And, you talk about making the first million, but for me, I wasn't, obviously you want to get to that stage, but we could have grown an awful lot faster because the demand that came for our service was huge.
Wow, really?
So blown away. But I decided I would only hire from within because that way I know the character of absolutely everybody. I know what they're made of. And now at a $65 million company, even our whole leadership team are people that started at entry level, came up through our leadership program, and they're people I could trust with my life. And we've never had a problem. And you're moving tens of thousands of people every year. We've never had anything get stolen from a customer.
Wow, that's very impressive. So Larry, the culture, okay, so I'm expanding a little bit more on this because it's really important. And nobody talks about this in this podcast. We touched the point several times, but now that we're here in the topic, this is what happened. I think that you said if you hire the right people, they will bring the culture and the highest standard. But the truth is that you have high standard, and then you attract the people with this high standard. Right. So they become, that's what we hiding in our company. We see culture first and skills after, because even we can teach you how to do the job. We don't care if it's going to take 1 month, 2 months, 3 months to learn it. Eventually, they're going to learn how to do the job. But we focus always in culture first and culture match, because, for example, in my company, right, I like to have a company with big operation, a lot of sales, but very few people. Okay. Yeah. This is my culture. This is who I am. This is how I operate. So the people that come to my company, right, they know, for example, in 20 years in business, Larry, nobody ever told me, Harry, this is not my job. Because from the beginning, we explain them, guys, this is a small team. We do so many things. Even this podcast, I told to my team before it started, look, I want to do a podcast. And my team told me, Harry, what's that? And I told them, I don't know. And they told me, we don't know it either. So they told me, okay, Harry, give us 3 weeks. We will figure out everything about this podcast thing you want to do. And we come back to you. And effectively, now when they come back, they did this bit of background. They set up everything automatically. Honestly, Larry, the only thing that I do is this interview with you. I put in a Dropbox. Everything else happened by magic. Okay? But this is the culture. We have people in that they're working with me that starting with no kids, now they have 3 kids. And when I ask them the same thing that you ask to your employees, I say, I'm telling sometimes, guys, you have been working for me. You have a huge CV. You can even go another company and even get more money. Why you still stick around? And the answer is always, Harry, we like to work with you. And we're happy with the money that we're getting. So we are fine here. and
That's right.
they last for years. But the people, Larry, that haven't been cultured much, that somebody make a mistake down the line and brought them inside the organization. Part of my culture is do the best that I can to try to save them, because I thinking that once they're inside the company, they are my responsibility. But to be honest with you, it cost me a lot of time, money, and energy, but I couldn't fix any of them that didn't have culture much. They stay my 1 year, 2 years, but after the third year, they check out. They never last forever, despite that I spend hours of training, I give them a lot of resources, I put a lot of personal time. It hasn't worked for me. So people and culture is more important. So that in order to grow a company and to scale up the company, which is we're going to talk later. So your last take on culture, Larry, what message do you have for the startup founders and for people scaling from 0 to 1, 1 to 10, and 10 million to 50 million? What are the messages that you have for these three types of entrepreneurs in terms of culture? Your message for the people going from 0 to 1, your message for the people going 0 to 10 million, your message people going from 10 million to 50 million in terms of culture.
Well, you just said that you could spend 2 years working with someone and you can't get anywhere. To be honest with you, for us, you've got to know everything about somebody in the first couple of months. You can't have somebody there a year or 2 years later. So you really have to be able, and people don't do that. They hire people, they get them trained, and it's only later that they see they're maybe toxic. So you've really got to focus on the people that are coming in the door, and you have to have good people you can trust, because that's when you have to get rid of people, is right away. And sometimes you'll know it in the first day, usually in the first week, and sometimes it'll take a couple of months. But somebody, you should know and be comfortable with somebody. And if you have the right culture, the people around them will welcome them in and know they belong. And if they don't, they let you know. And very often, people have great qualifications. So you keep making excuses for them because you need their skill set. It's not worth it. You should hire for character, for the right kind of people that you can trust. You don't want that to happen. And nobody has ever double-crossed me. In fact, before I took on my partner who could handle the money side of things, and I had to do payroll by myself, I was too busy. So I would, for payroll, when they come in, I'd say, so how many hours did you work this week? How much do I owe you? And they would tell me, and I'd fill it in the ledger. Well, I bet nobody ever lied. I check once in a while, but people would tell you the truth. And when you trust people, it comes back to you. And when you say to somebody, how much do I owe you? And they worked, say, 35 hours, do you think they're going to say, oh, I worked 40 hours so they can get an extra 5 hours pay? It never happened. So I think it's so important to get people out early. And I don't care.
Because honestly, Larry, it's one of your values. So because it's one of your values, you're attracting people with those values.
Right.
So,
and of course, when you have core values, they can't just be up on the wall. For instance, respect. I mean, if somebody is not respectful of the people around them and of your customers and everyone else, they don't belong with you. And whining and complaining, like when we talk about enthusiasm, nobody wants to work with people who are whining and complaining. And when a customer is difficult, you've got to give them the benefit of the doubt, because that's what respect is. Their money is as good as anybody else's money. So if you talk to them, you find out what they're dealing with. Maybe there's been a bad medical diagnosis. Maybe a job has been lost. Maybe you don't know they have a sick child in the hospital. And once you know that, you can be empathetic to them and you can connect with them. and you can earn their trust instead of whining and bitching and moaning and grabbing a beer with one of the others and saying, God, did you have to work with that jerk, you know, and just writing them off. So respect is a huge part of our, so whatever values you do choose for your company, you have to be true to them, and you have to make sure that everybody that works for you is cut from that same cloth. And they won't be giving a hard time to some new employee because they're stumbling. If something's all in good fun, that's one thing. But when you're making somebody uncomfortable and making fun of them and giving them a hard time, that's disrespectful. And if that's a core value for you, that person doesn't belong on your team. You want somebody who'll come over to the person and say, hey, you're struggling with this. How can I help you? And that's the culture you want to have. So, I mean, and look, our success has come from our reputation. But by the way, because we're a moving company, okay.
So, Larry, it's not the same to when you go to 0 to 1 million. After you achieve the first million, you had kind of to forget what you know and then learn something new to scale from 1 million to 10 million. And then when you reach 10 million, you kind of need to forget everything you learned. And now because scaling to 10 million to 50 million is different. So tell us about a scaling up and also the journey of an entrepreneur. Because for me, I remember 0 to 1, I'm feeling like I don't have time. I'm wearing all the hats. I don't even have time for payroll. So I had to do it with the leader team. Then 1 to 10 is more about leadership. But then, Larry, you didn't sign up to be a leader. You signed up to have your moving company and make some money. Now you have to become a leader. So tell us about your journey scaling up and your own transformation as a founder.
Okay, well, for me, it's more 0 to 3 million and then 3 million to 10, because up to 3 million, I was able to wear all the hats, most of the hats, except for the financial stuff, like I said, and the administrative stuff. But I was able to handle everything else. Obviously, the biggest problem is being able to delegate, because you need to, and when you hire somebody, they're going to do a job that you've already been doing yourself. So you have to train them to do it. And that's a fun process. The problem is knowing when to step back and let them make mistakes on their own. So you have to get to the point where you can trust somebody, so you're not looking over their shoulder, and you have to be comfortable with the fact that, you know, they're going to make some bad decisions. They're going to make some mistakes, and they're going to have to learn. Because if you're micromanaging somebody and staying on top of them, you're not going to get the kind of worker you want in the end. You need people to be able to develop the confidence to make decisions on their own. And what's really rewarding is when they come and ask you for help. Because when somebody says, listen, I'm having trouble with this, can you help me? That is a wonderful thing for them to say, because now you know they want to hear from you. Whereas, you know, if you don't go through that process, you're not letting them make any of their own decisions, and they can become extremely frustrated with that. So in order to change from an entrepreneur into a leader, I had to read a lot of books and really study it up and do a lot of thinking, and being able to find a way to step back with my thoughts and think things through, because you can't just be going 100 miles an hour all the time. It just becomes chaos. So I think that's very important. You know, it's a cliche, learning how to delegate, but at the end of the day, that's what's so important. Like, it's easy to say you need to delegate, but to actually do it is another thing. And
Absolutely.
you have to be able to catch yourself and step back and let people do
And
their
let
job.
go. And let
Let go.
go. And then
You hired them to do a job, and you've got to trust them to do it. And
and for me, Larry, that I have, in that process, I had this bad experience when somebody stole the money. Then I'm thinking, well, should I really trust the people in the organization? So it's not a straightforward process, right? Like to
right,
me,
well,
it happened like by accident, like at the beginning, I'm wearing all the hats. Then I start to write. I brought the right people, but then by mistake, a rotten apple came. I almost collapsed because of that. Now I'm thinking, should I trust people again or no? Looks what happened. And eventually, Larry, we have to let go. And we
well,
have to,
yeah,
and we have to, exactly, to
you,
start to turn ourselves into leaders, which is
you,
something that we didn't sign up for it. We
well, you do,
didn't know that we need to become leaders and trainers. We
right.
knew this because the company is scaling and you cannot do everything by yourself anymore, right?
Right. I don't want to be critical of you, but there had to be something that you should have been able to pick up on, that that person couldn't be trusted. And
You know what
sometimes,
happened? You know what happened, Larry? I high fast. I was same thing. Like I didn't do what you did. You told me, Harry, I was growing, but despite of the demand that I was growing, I didn't broke everybody to set that demand fast. I always hire carefully and make sure that it's culture match. What happened to me is I have a large demand, and so then I hired. I at some point of the business, so I hired quickly without checking all this, and I hired. I didn't know. I didn't know. I learned
it's
because so
hard.
far everybody that I hired they were good, so
Well,
I thought that everybody was good. So
hiring quickly is definitely dangerous. And you see, what that says about you is that you're an impatient person, and you have to be impatient to be successful in business. So, what I say to somebody is, you need to be a very impatient person who's learned patience. Because if you're a very patient person, you'll never get anywhere. So, you have to be impatient, but learn to be patient. Try to be
how do
patient.
you learn to be patient, Larry? How do you learn to be patient when you have a big demand and you're thinking, well, if I don't serve this client, somebody else will come and serve them. I
Well,
have
it's
to move
hard,
fast.
but the very fact that you're trying, that's what's important. You're thinking about it. You're trying because you and if you have to move too quickly, I don't know, maybe put somebody to a test, so you can absolutely trust them. Uh, you know,
That's
uh,
what we're doing, Larry. That's what we're doing now after the years of
yeah,
experience.
yeah,
When we bring someone, we bring them for 3 months of trial, and after 3 months, we really know if the person is actually is gonna work. Take us sometimes a little bit of time because it's a lot of dynamics. And but
yeah,
in 3 months we observe the person, and the last thing that we observing is the skills. We're observing how respond to change, how to follow instruction, how proactive is the person, how they work with the colleagues,
right,
respect, all that everything.
right,
This is what we mainly look in the first 3 months. And
right.
yeah, they cannot do the job, but we give them the training and we have them the skills. But
Right.
now with experience, uh, this uh, this is what we learn. But again, the it's a learning experience. It's not like a straightforward journey, at least for us. We have some bumps in the road in order to get
Right,
there.
right. No, you're absolutely right. But I'm not, I don't think it's a bad idea to put somebody to the test. You know, when I first delegated letting somebody else do some hiring, and they hired somebody that people said, I'm not so sure about this person. I don't know if you can trust them. And so what I did was I laid a trap. I put something down that had a certain value and made it look like it had been abandoned and nobody cared about it. And it took a couple of months, but it disappeared. But I had a camera on it,
Wow. Wow.
and I looked at the camera and I saw that he took it. Now, I took the person in and I had somebody with me, and I said, okay, we're letting you go. And he said, why are you doing that? And I looked at him and I said, why are you asking? Is there more than one reason? And he said, oh, blah, blah, blah. And I said, look, you stole stuff, okay? And he said, no, I didn't. No, I didn't. And I said, well, you did. So see you later. Now, if I had told him what he stole, he would own my company because he could have sued me. But I knew that if he went to an attorney and said, oh, they fired me. And he said, why did, well, they said I stole stuff. And the attorney says, well, what did you steal? Well, they didn't tell me. Well, the attorney's not going to take the case. But if he said, oh, yeah, that this thing was lying around and they said I stole it, but it had been there for 3 months before I took it. I didn't think anybody wanted it. And then you're dead in the water. Plus, if anybody knew that I put it there deliberately, that's called entrapment. And you're going to lose in court. But when I didn't tell him, guess what? And I left a bit out, which is that before the thing had been taken, what I did was I decided I wasn't comfortable with the guy, so I brought him in and I said, "Look, we're going to have to let you go, but don't worry, you keep wanting money, a raise, and you're never going to get one. So I think you're best off leaving, and I'll give you a severance." And he said, I said, I'll give you what at the time was pretty good, $3,000, you see, because it was worth that much to me to get rid of the guy without any problems. And he said, can I have 3 days to think it over? And you see, that's where I thought I was being smart, but I was being really stupid because he took that 3 days to steal a whole bunch of stuff, including what I had laid
The trap.
bait.
Including
we
the
only
bait.
found out after he was gone that he had stolen other stuff. But here's the thing. I think entrapment is a wonderful thing, and it's against the law and everything. But hey, if you're worried about somebody and you put them to a test, go for it. But
Yeah.
But there's been lots of cases where people have,
No, but when it's no culture match, that's it, right?
Yeah.
And like I said, sometimes, Larry, you see companies out there that they are big, they're making a lot of money. But when you arrive to those companies, there is a lot of toxic environment. You see that, you see the conversation, well, if you don't meet this number, you're going to get fired. And you can smell the toxicity, right, on the culture.
Yeah, you do.
And they can make a lot of money,
Right.
But, eventually what happened with those cultures is that a change happened in the market, and they cannot adapt fast, and they collapse. So it's better to pay attention, Larry, to culture from the beginning and keep an eye all the time, right?
Yes, and I can tell you that in that particular case, this guy, like the word kiss ass, like he would butter me up and be really nice to me. But people were telling me, I don't think he belongs here. And that's because they understood the culture and they
exactly. He doesn't fit in the culture because everybody is with one culture.
Yeah. So they wanted him out. And at the end of the day, that's what happened when I got rid of him. But there you go. It's a good. It's not a bad idea in my
And I think
mind.
it's a good decision, good business decision, because you're telling me, oh, Harry just cost me 3,000 plus all the thing that he stole. You know what? You keep it under control. But you
Yeah,
know what is a
exactly.
bigger problem? Bigger problem if he steals something from the customer complain.
Right. At least
This and a
at least
bad
I didn't.
review and a headache. Can you imagine? That
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
the business
Yeah.
lose more like that, right?
Right. At least I didn't have to give him the 3,000.
Ah, wow, you saved the 3K.
Yeah,
Good for
because
you.
I
He took
was
a lot of
able to
things.
get. Yeah. I got rid of him before he got that money. So anyway, there you go.
So Larry, being excellent, okay,
Yeah.
in customer acquisition, a lot of businesses, they spend a lot of money in marketing and sales, doing TV advertising, and they are all always concerned about bringing strangers, new clients to the business. I need more clients. I need more clients. I need more clients. And nobody pays attention exactly that part that you have done, which is hiring the right people that will treat your customers excellent. So now
Right.
your customer become your marketing strategy, and your
Right.
customer refer people for free to you. So now your customer acquisition is zero. So what
That's
message do you have for people out there, for business out there, that they are all driven, all the money, time, and resources is focused in the new customer, and the customer that already forget about me, don't worry about it. I'm gonna hire cheap people that's gonna treat
right.
them like so, and who cares? I don't care about them anymore because they're already bought for me. Especially if they're moving, they change house once a year. Who cares about the client? Next two
Yeah.
years, he's gonna call me again. Nobody cares. You already bought for me. So tell us about keeping building relationship with existing client. That would be one of the success of your business or not?
It is. It's the most important thing because the best test of any customer is, are they going to come back, and use you again? It doesn't matter what kind of a review they give you. It's if they're moving again, will they call you? And that's what's most important. And before you spend money on marketing and advertising, you've got to make sure that everybody you do offer a service to, that they're getting first class. Because every time you don't give a customer a really tremendous experience, that's going to cost you 10 times. You need customers that are going to say nice things about you and recommend you. So what's the point of advertising if you're losing customers just as fast as you're gaining them? So that's most important. And, friends that own restaurants, I say, well, what's the most important thing in a restaurant when somebody comes in and orders a meal? Well, the most important thing is that they're going to come back. And you have to do something to make that want to happen. So if you have a restaurant, you find out, is this a person who's just a tourist passing through, or are they somebody in the neighborhood? And if they are, what are you going to do that's going to thrill them and make them want to come back? And how can you make it so if they're not happy about something, they will tell you? And when they do, you make it up to them with a free meal or a free bottle of wine or a dessert or something, because they weren't happy. Now all of a sudden they are happy and they're going to come back and be a customer over and over again, instead of worrying about, oh geez, I lost I wasted money there. I gave away a bottle of wine. The most important thing is people coming back, and all of the people that work for me, they know that they can make any decision that they think is in the best interest of the customer. And sometimes that means giving a customer a break because they're a little unhappy about something. And they don't have to check with management. They can make that decision. And if they make a stupid decision, we still back them up because they did it with the best of intent and they learn not to do that again. But, you got to let your people make decisions in the interest of your customers and do what they think are right, as if they own the business. And you have to make people feel like they are owners. And to that end, what we do,
100%, 100%.
and when we beat our budget, we give 50% of the money back to the employees. And
Wow.
that,
Wow.
yeah, that's right. Because where would you be without them? And that's about, and that gets the loyalty. And they know that if we beat our targets, they get some of that money.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. That's
Right.
yeah, because we're doing this as a team, right? So
Right.
Larry, tell us about your book, why you decide to write this book, and also tell us how many states, the name of your company, and how many states that companies had presence, and why you decide to write this book, and what's your favorite chapter?
Well, it's a Gentle Giant moving company. And a lot of people said to me, "You've got a great story. You've got to tell your story." And I kept hearing that. You know, I I tried to tell the story. I tried to write it, but it took a lot of effort and time to write a good book because
Tell
when
me
you
about
write,
it. It's a lot of work.
yeah, because you put in a lot of stuff that you maybe think is important, but a lot of what I wrote, I had to throw it out because you have to look at what's going to be
Why?
interesting.
Why?
Because you have to be it might feel important to you, but it might be the story might be too long-winded, or it might just be too personal or something. For instance, when I started my business, I had a girlfriend, and I was in love with her, and she said I was a workaholic, and she wound up breaking up with me over it because at the time I was working all the time. And you know, hey, that's sort of a big thing in your life, and you're really messed up. But you know what? Nobody cares about that. The book isn't about that.
No,
Again,
but that's
lots of
important. That's also important. I opened a restaurant in London. I lost 200,000 pounds, and after I have this big failure, I lost my girlfriend back on the time. I lost a lot of friends. So I learned to be careful in business because when something goes wrong, everybody disappear. And this girlfriend that left you, she didn't know that maybe 2, 3 years after that, you're gonna have all the time on the world because our life is like this of entrepreneurs. We work
right,
back to back, but it's only 1, 2 years. And for me was exactly like this, the first 2 years until
right,
the business took off. So it's not always forever. And then was
yeah,
actually the opposite. In fact,
yeah,
my team, when I started to implement leadership, they literally sent me home. They told me, Harry, you don't need to come to this office anymore. Stay at home. We can grow the business without you. We can even go, and we will go to see you once a month to tell you what we're doing with your business. You travel the world if you want. We got this. And my team told me, and we can prove it that we can do it better than when you're around. That's how motivated they were. They were the girls,
right,
my managers. They told
yeah.
me, they were telling me, I remember the first day they told me this, Larry. Told me, Harry, don't come to the office. Clearly, you have nothing to do. We have some work to do here. Stay at home. And I thought to my manager, yeah, you want me to stay at home? I thought to my manager, who's going to buy the paper for the photocopy? You tell me who's buying the paper for the photocopy. And my manager told me, Harry, we can get our paper for the photocopy. Stay at home. And
Well,
Larry, I saw the first day you feel a little bit strange. The second day, I'm thinking how I pulled this off. And I was thinking, did I get obsolete in my own company? Right? But guess what happened? My manager, Eva, every month she comes to see me for 2 hours with only one problem. She was telling me, Harry, we need more single rooms. Only that problem. She was scaling, she was finding the houses, she was renting the rooms with the whole team in the office, everything growing. They were running better than me, to be honest. All of them were better than me, all of them, at everything, at sales and marketing, at everything. I used to ask them, how you do it? Teach me, because for me it's harder to sell the room. For me, harder to how you do it. So, and I was so happy about it. I was telling everybody, man, you're not going to believe my team. They're amazing. You know, they're doing this, they're doing that. I was genuinely happy how good they are. Okay. But I
Which you
remember my
hired.
manager, yeah, my manager that is coming with only one problem, telling me, Harry, we need more single rooms. And I'm telling her, Eva, I cannot give you more single rooms for this reason. Every house in London and in the world, okay, only have one single room, maximum two, because the single rooms are the rooms that you use for the kids. So when somebody build a house, you build big rooms for the people, and they assume that they're going to have more in Europe, in London, 1 or 2 kids. So, of course, every house only have one single room, maximum 2. And on top of that, the single rooms are the cheaper one. So, of course, Eva, that you have a large demand for single room because they are the cheapest one and there is a scarcity, but I cannot give you more single room because the house had built like that. Okay, so I told her this. Next month, she comes with the same problem. Harry, we need more single rooms. And I'm, again, now I have like, imagine, I had the whole month to prepare the answer to her. And I said, Eva, let me give you more elaborated answer. We cannot give you single room. This is the design of the house and everything, blah, blah. 3rd month, she comes. Harry, we need more single room. I said, you know what, Eva? I called my builders. They were Polish, mad. I said, guys, do you, those living rooms, huge living rooms that we have in some houses, okay, would you be able to cut that in half? And, you know, the person, they won't be able to hear the people next to the room. And the guy told me, yes, Harry, we can do a partition and we can insulate it in the middle. Nobody will listen anything for the other room. And I said to Eva, Eva, you want the single rooms? Here you have them. All the living rooms and all the big rooms that we have in all the portfolio. As soon as they get empty, I'm sending the Polish guys to cut that in half. And now you will have more single room. Are you happy? And she said, I'm very happy. We make 2 million.
Good for you.
With the same, so I realized, Larry, that I thought that I was obsolete in my company, but they have only, exactly, the employee come to you to tell you, I need help with this. You see? At the beginning, my receipt, it was a huge problem. I mean, we handled this problem from day one, Larry. I haven't found a solution. We knew, of course, I built the business. I know that there is more demand for single rooms. I'm dealing with these problems since I started the business. But because I didn't have the time and I didn't have the team to give me the space to think in this complex solution, even the accountant called me and said, Harry, how much money, all this money is coming in? What happened? You took more houses and you didn't tell me and tell it to accountant. No, we had the same thing. And the accountant said, how are you making so much money? So imagine if you have a big room that you can rent for 600 for 550, people will want the single ones. So in the same space we're making, so it was an idea. So Larry, the founder is always useful at the end of the day, even if you become obsolete in your own company. Is that to conclude? This is a statement, a right statement, or do you think that now that you are in so many stages and your company sell over 10 million, that is fine and Larry has become obsolete in his own company and we don't need Larry anymore?
Well, maybe writing my book has, it's called Heavy Lifting, Building a Business with a Giant Heart. And now they're stuck with the book because for the future, they'll always have to live up to what's in that book. So yeah, I don't have to be around anymore because basically my main function is really promoting the culture, because what I do every year is I visit all of our offices and I answer questions.
Whoa, that's a big job. How many offices do you have?
It is, but some of them aren't too far from each other. But yeah, but I mean, if you're going to say Seattle, that'll be a day, and San Francisco will be a day, and Phoenix will be a day. So yeah, it's a big job, but I love it. I love going out and meeting the people, and the reason I love it is because they've replicated our exact culture everywhere. And that's because the people running those offices have come up through our system from day one, entry level. They understand our culture and they know how to maintain it. And they follow the same formula that, you're talking about.
So thank you so much, Larry, for the podcast. I really appreciate it. I can
Sure.
speak hours with you. It's a fascinating story. And you see, and the interesting thing, Larry, is that it's a business that we can call it a boring business, because now all the entrepreneurs are looking for the shiny object. Everybody wants this tech at the top. Everybody wants to change the world. Everybody wants to shoot rocket to the space. But those businesses, like a moving company, traditional, like a barber shop, like those businesses, they will be always forever, because people need to move. They need a service. And sometimes people are diminishing this kind of business. So I'm glad that you show up with a very successful story about what we're calling boring business or traditional business. That how out of the traditional business, if you bring the right culture, and you are a good leader, can make a success story, and you can sell millions and create a wonderful life, not only for you, but also for your employee and for your team. Look at you even share the money with your employees. That's amazing. So good job for that. Thank you so much.
Yes. Harry, it was lovely meeting and talking with you. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. For all of you following the podcast, see you in our next episode of Unstoppable, how brave entrepreneur like Larry break the wall and achieve the first million. Bye for now.
Okay. Thank you.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.